I just knew in myself that it was over. But all I could see ahead of me was there was a lady that had pulled off to the side of the road, and I was sliding right towards her. And I knew if I hit her, I was going to cause damage or possibly even severe damage to her. And the last thing I wanted to do was to affect anybody else's life. So I knew that as soon as I turned the wheel, the car was going to start to roll. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And I turned the wheel, and the van just started to roll. And roll, and roll, and roll, and roll. And I remember when it first took the first turn, when I started to roll, all of a sudden, I felt two hands on my shoulders that held me in my seat. And then I took the next roll, and then I was able to just keep rolling. And I didn't think anything more about that. And I landed down in this gully, and I was on my back, and I had to kick out the window because the van was so smashed to get out. And I remember crawling back up, and everybody thought I was okay, and they all left. And the police came, and they're measuring all the measurements and the skid marks and everything. And the man looked at me, and he said, I was just in an accident just like this last week. And he said he goes, the one thing I don't understand is, he goes, you didn't have your seatbelt on. And he said, by the way that the van would have flipped, you should have went right out the windshield. And he said, you should have been thrown out the windshield, and then the van would have rolled on you. And immediately when he said that, I told him, I said, well, I can tell you why I wasn't thrown out the windshield, because I felt two hands come down and hold me in my seat. And he looked at me like I was strange. And that's the power of God. That's how he delivers us. I broke my back that day. And they said I'd never walk again. And I walk every day. They told me that I would never be able to have I was going to have some type of paralysis or something wrong. And every day I wake up and I thank God for his mercy and grace in my life. That's only one small example of the power of God. That's what he's given us. He's given us his power. He's given us his love. What is the most important thing that he gave the world? It's a verse that all of us know so much. It's what symbolizes the love when it says that he didn't give us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love. You know what it is? It's Jesus Christ. It said, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. That he came into the world not to condemn the world, but through him the world might be saved. John 3:16 and 17. That's a verse all of us know. That is the most important symbol of the love that he had for all of us. That's what he gave us. He gave us his Son. He gave us the opportunity that we could go through life so much better, that we could be able to go through life with the ability to know that he is with us. Go through life with the ability to know that we have a sound mind, that peace that he gives us, that peace that goes through all understanding, that we can be able to know that he is with us, and no matter what comes our way, he's going to give us an avenue of escape that we can bear it, that he has promised that he's going to be with us in all things, that he's promised us that no matter what situation comes in our life, he's going to be able to see us through it, that he has told us that greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. He's promised us that he's going to walk with us. Next week, I'm going to have the wonderful opportunity to take my brother into the water. Angelo recently realized that he wanted to be free, as we sang. That he didn't want to have that spirit anymore of guilt, and he wanted to be able to have Christ in his life. And next week, I'm taking him into the water. What a wonderful opportunity. If you only knew, I'm like the poster child of where you were and where you are with Christ. But if there is a 1B in that, it's my brother. And we've shared so much together. And we relate so much in our past lives together. Both of us being brought to the gospel of Jesus Christ through our wives, both of us having a lot of the same past, both of us having a lot of the same issues with family, both of us having a lot of the same things, both of us having a lot of the same interests. And to think that when I met him, that I'm going to have the opportunity to take him in the water next week is something that, praise God. And that opportunity that you have to be able to have him with you as an abiding gift, we can't take that for granted. You know, there was a time I wanted to read just a quick story, because I wonder if you sit there today, can you make that same statement? Can you say to yourself that you have the Spirit of God, that he has not given you fear, that you can walk with him with power and of love, of a sound mind. Can you go on to say, as we read, that I know I am not ashamed, for I know who I have believed, and am persuaded that he is able to keep that which I have committed unto him against that day. Can you say that today? As you sit there today, can you say and answer that just like how Paul did? As Paul was in prison exhorting to Timothy and telling him to be strong as a young man and to be able to go forth and do what he needed to do in his life. And he was doing this from prison. Paul, with all these things that we're writing about, with the encouragement that he was giving, a lot of that's when he was in shackles. When he was in prison, he was doing these things. And yet he was trying to tell Timothy to go forth. And I wonder today if you can do that. Or as the circumstances of life got you into a position to where sometimes you want to take a step back and you question. You know, there was a time that there was a widow in the Old Testament. I believe it was in 2 Kings. And she came to Elijah. And she went up to him and she said, Elijah, I don't have any money. And in those days, what they would do is the bondmen would come. And when they couldn't take as far as and fulfill their debts, that they would take their children. And they would take them as servants and be able to use them to be able to go forth. And that would be what they would use as their payment. And this widow just lost her husband. And she went panicking to Elijah. And she said, Elijah, the bondmen are here. And they're going to take my 2 sons. That's all I have left. And they're going to take them away. What can you do? And it's like he said, what do you want me to do? And he asked her a simple question. You know what he said? He said, what's in your house? And she goes, there's nothing in my house. I have nothing. All I have is a pot of oil. That's all I have in my whole house is just a pot of oil. And sometimes do we think that? You know, when you sit there today and you talk about this spirit and no fear and going forth with this love and this sound mind and this power that God's given us and this promise that he's told us that greater things are we going to do than he has done, that he's promised us that he's going to walk with us every day, all these things. But when you sit there and then you go back and you start to analyze your own life, you start to think, I got nothing. I have this reason I can't serve him. I have this reason, but my job is this, my family is this, my situation is this. You don't understand. I remember that. I remember so vividly sitting under the gospel of Jesus Christ, feeling his presence, feeling his spirit, feeling touched, and yet I would think to myself, but they don't know the circumstances that I'm in. They don't know what I have back at home. They don't know the bad decisions that I have made. But you know who's prompting that? It's that evil one. It's that mind of the flesh that we have that starts to think through that. And that's where this widow was. She didn't understand. She thought and looked at her own life, if all she had was that pot of oil. Many times we think to ourselves, I don't have anything to offer him. I'm not going to be able to do that, so I'm not even going to try. And as the story goes on, he instructed her to go forth and take her sons and go into the house and get all the containers and pray. And get all the containers and start taking that oil and fulfilling all these other containers with oil. And the story goes on to say that they filled every container they had. And the widow and the mom said to her sons, go find some more containers. And they're like, we don't have any more. That all of them are full. And the container was still full of oil. And the next day they went back to Elijah and they told him this experience. And he said, now go sell the oil and give it to the bondmen. And what an incredible experience that was for this lady, that she didn't think she had anything, but yet God used what she had to his honor and to his glory. That's what he does for us. He's put us in the situations that we're in, that we could be able to look to him for all things, that we'd be able to look to him, that he would be able to bless our lives, that he would be able to take us, no matter what our situations are. Nothing is too great for Jesus Christ. Nothing is too great in our life, any circumstance that we have, that he can be able to work with us. He can be able to help us. You know, I remember this was and Josh probably doesn't understand this, but this was really a changing moment for me. And I remember he had the opportunity to come down in January, and we had the NBA ski weekend. And had the honor of him staying at our house. And I remember the one evening we found ourselves on the couch together, and we were talking. And we started talking about our branches. He started talking about the desire that he had for you. and the desire that he had to see this area grow, and the desire that he had to